and which have no other alternatives except for there to be an intelligent designer, a creator, a god, for all this to be coming into existence. Because if look, I said, if you break it down, you'll come to either it existed by itself, or that it came from nothing, or something brought it into existence. If you can think of any other possibilities from these three possibilities, please let me know.
Well, the point is that I'm not certain. On you go.
So I think the question was, who defines logical?
Who defines logical? Good question. Logic for us human beings to understand is by our own understanding of what makes sense. Okay, so like I gave you the example of a pink elephant flying. Yes? Would you consider that logical or illogical?
Depends.
I'm asking you, does it exist?
It depends who you're speaking to.
I'm speaking to you.
For me personally, no. But other people might
Okay,
argue other-
how did you determine whether it's logical or illogical?
From everything that I've observed.
Good, so this is what we all define as being logical or illogical. But I understand where you're coming from, that certain people's logic of being logical might not be yours, and other people, it can be subjective in certain things. But there are many objective truths out there, which are something that we shouldn't be skeptical about, okay? I don't know, you must have seen those flat earthers here.
I got to be skeptical about everything. Yeah, I talked to the flat earthers, and it's very interesting. I was going to bring that up because many people come at them with science, and I think that's not a good strategy because you can look at them and they have a very strong belief in something. And I would imagine that if you showed them indisputable evidence to contradict them, they would never believe it because
they
it's
didn't start
deeper.
with science in the first place.
Right, it's deeper. It's a spiritual idea. I think it's a response to nihilism, this flat earth theory, because they go right back to spirituality. They're like, well, it's God, and then you're under God. Man is not over man.
Sorry.
And it's about a spiritual idea.
Just
I
as a
think.
passenger,
No,
just as a passenger
Yeah.
to this whole talk, and I feel like that's what I've been a passenger. It just seems like I said, who defines logic in this argument? And he wants proof, whereas you have faith. And the reason I said faith is because
I used logic so far. I haven't used much of talking about faith yet. Most of mine was basically determined by how would you rule out certain possibilities of how we came into existence. Yes, and to me that is very a scientific method of ruling out certain things. And this is what I use as my approach.
Yeah.
You see, I did not say, oh, God created and that's it, end of story. You see, I asked questions to you that there are three possibilities. Either it came from by itself, or it came from nothing, or something created it, the universe. You see, then I even asked if there are other possibilities, please let me know.
Right.
So I've been using logic so far to determine how we can understand our existence.
I was just going to say, to be fair, just to play at devil's advocate, you've been using the process of elimination as opposed to actual logic. You haven't presented any theory forward, presenting your own logical reasoning as to why you believe something actually exists. You've just eliminated his possibility of being completely skeptic. So what I'm trying to say is, when we're talking about logic, it's really important that we do define what logic is in particular. Because right now, logic doesn't necessarily mean you cancel out everything, because that's what he's doing. He's cancelling out, he's being skeptic, he's cancelling out all the inconsistencies. You're cancelling out the inconsistencies in his argument. So now you have to present a theory forward.
When you say cancelling out, you see, I did place on the table all my cards. And then I asked him, using your logic, you tell me whether this is wrong or right.
Absolutely.
And then I even expanded more than that, that if you, from your logic, have other possibilities, please let me know.
Absolutely.
So this is something that I have used as our own understanding of our world.
Of course.
And I'm sure that when you think about it, you wouldn't think it's illogical to ask these questions.
No,
Yes.
sure.
So if it's logical and if it's making sense and it's not something completely outlandish, then I think we can quite easily communicate about the possibilities of our existence. Where did it come from?
But this is where I was going to say logic is very important, and defining it is very important. You say it's logical to question all of those things, but I'd say, to what degree is it logical? If you're someone who works 9 to 9, doesn't have much time, has to look after your family, have to pay bills, etc., and you do not have the time, otherwise you won't survive, what logic does it make for you to then invest time that will take money out of your family guidance? That's what I'm trying to say. Logic is very subjective. Logic is different for him, and it's different
I don't
for
think
yourself.
logic is
And
subjective. There's a lot of objectiveness in our world that we see, which are not subjective. For example, if I asked you, what is a triangle? Yes?
Yeah.
Everyone will give me an objective definition of a triangle with three sides.
I've got a
Well,
question
almost
for you.
everyone.
That's-
I wouldn't say you employing your logic, your understanding of the shape of a triangle is illogical or is subjective even.
So let's
But
take this
that's,
deeper.
can I
yeah?
quickly
There are many things which are objective truths, and you need to
No,
understand
absolutely,
this.
absolutely. But you just gave me the example of the triangle.
Yeah.
We've allocated what a triangle is by naming it. Now, what is gender?
What is gender?
Yeah, what is gender?
Defined by your genes, I guess.
Gender.
See, I use that definition
absolutely,
because
absolutely.
anyone can use an operation to change a gender, but they can't change the genes, can they?
That's brilliant. That's
Yes?
brilliant. That's brilliant.
There you go.
The word gender actually comes from type. It doesn't actually define the sex. It has nothing to do with the sex. Originally, when gender was made, it was made to be different themes and different types and different categories. That was the original etymology of gender.
Different
That's
types
why-
of what?
Etymology. Different types. It's just basically to say categories. It
Oh,
was
you're talking about the etymology of the word.
the etymology. So what I'm trying to say is when we allocate words and you say there's objective truth, even in, say, the etymology, not necessarily, because over time, these truths change.
Bro,
So-
I wouldn't use etymology as my evidence to understand gender.
No, but
I
was
would
just
use something that is something objective, like for example the genes in everybody's bloodstream that you can quite easily understand, and you can
talking
see
about the
this
X
is
and the Y.
scientific.
No, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're
exactly.
talking about the meaning of the words
I'm talking,
changing.
but that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing.
So I wouldn't use that
When we're talk- when
because
we're
you see
talking about-
etymology is changed throughout history.
Sure,
Absolutely.
I agree.
But I wouldn't use that methodology.
Yeah.
So to me that wouldn't be logical.
I've got a question.
But I just want to point out. No, sorry. I just want to point out. You asked me.
Are we going somewhere with this
You asked me
discussion now?
what was a
It seems to be
triangle. You
all-
asked me what was a triangle.
Yeah, go on.
If I were to ask someone who knew Pig Latin what is gender, he would then give me the
but-
original etymology.
But you see, that is
So-
not the correct way of going about defining things. Because many things, for example, the word gay has changed today.
Yeah.
Yes? At one point it used to be happy. But if I'm going to use the historic definition or meaning of gay, then calling someone who's homosexual gay would be wrong. Okay?
Absolutely.
Because then I'm using a different definition, a
his-
different terminology.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this. I would not use etymology, and I know where you're coming from, but you see, everyone doesn't use etymology to understand the definition of things. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
Sure.
Oh my god.
We done the etymology.
No, it was just with the gay point, right? With
Yeah.
the gay point in particular, there was a reason as to why it was actually changed from gay from homosexuality.
Yeah.
There's actually a reason as to
Let's
why.
save that for
There was a
another
lot
time.
more- Okay, fair enough. But I'm just saying in particular,
Different
when we are
discussion
talking about
maybe.
objective truths, we
I
have to be
just
careful.
wanted to prove about
No, absolutely.
the,
but we have
the
to
meaning
be-
of words changing in our
Well,
history.
I think just
That's
to,
all I'm saying.
Just to, I think necessarily say this gentleman's point. We need to be careful what we assert as objective truth. Like right now, I can say that I'm darker than this gentleman, and I can prove that because of the melanin in my skin, and we know this, and that's objective truth that can never change. But with etymology, that can change. So we have to be very careful what we assert as objective truth, and I think this is where this gentleman is coming from. Sorry, carry on. I'm
So
still
I'm
a
going to
passenger.
ask another question, a different one. Maybe we can move the convo around. So, let's say, so if you're saying maybe these things are logical with the creation of the universe and such, I want to ask a question about God, or maybe your understanding of God.
Okay.
Is it logical for God to create life? If we are created by a God, was it logical for that to happen?
God is the creator. God creates life, living things and non-living things. So by definition of the term God, yes, he is also the creator of everything and everyone. Does that answer your question?
Not really.
It's a bit of a logical fallacy. Forgive me, but that's a bit of a logical fallacy. Surely.
Why is it a logical fallacy?
Earlier, with respect,
No, fine. You're allowed to.
with respect.
You're allowed to give your opinion. No problem.
I was just
I
about
want to know why it's a logical fallacy.
mutation is a random occurrence.
Second.
Mutation is a random
Because
occurrence.
earlier on you suggested that there are scientific theories that suggest the creation of the universe. Yes? And one of the things you said was that,
Sorry, did I say that?
well, I think you said,
I don't think you were listening.
wasn't
I said the scientists do not tell you the origin of things. The scientists explain how they perform, how they work. Yes. So these things, but in fact, the scientists will not tell you about abiogenesis or about the existence of the universe. They stop at a certain point, and there's a reason. I explained there's a reason they stop at a certain point, because without time and space, scientists are handicapped. So they go and reach a point called the singularity.
your answer is God. Respect.
No, I'm not saying my answer. I'm just explaining to you why the scientists stop at a certain point. They stop at the singularity because that is how far time and space will take them. Beyond that, they don't know whether time existed or space existed, let alone matter.
And that's what scientific theories are. We don't
I'm just telling you why scientists stop there. But as a theist, I don't stop there. I go beyond that. I said because the universe began to exist, it must have a cause.
But if you look at that, look at that logically, with respect,
Yeah, go on.
if where did God come from? Where did the Almighty come? Whatever.
Good question. It's a question
and
I.
what existed before God?
Yeah.
And I mean that in.
No, that's fine. You're perfectly all right to ask me that question. This is the most common question asked when I make this point. So you're not alone in that. God, by definition, is the first cause, uncaused cause. Okay, no one created him. By definition of God, it is not like he began to exist, like the universe. Remember I said, everything that begins to exist, everything that begins to exist has a cause. God did not begin to exist, God always existed eternally. Yes, because by definition of the term God, this is something as theists we believe that God is the uncaused cause. He is the one who created everything, no one created him. So for you to ask the question, did anyone create God or who had existed before God, you're assuming that he began to exist at some point. That's not true.
Can I quickly ask, you said scientists are handicapped when it comes to if without time and space. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can. Because the reason the scientists stop at this singularity when explaining the Big Bang theory is because of this, that they cannot see beyond that singularity. So there was this Big Bang at certain point, and that is what basically started all this matter and everything, gravity and whatnot, everything that exists, they came from this particular point in time.
But the
And then the expansion, but what happened before that, they can only speculate.
That's asserting that's the methodology of all scientists. Where I understand
That is
the
actually, yeah.
methodology,
They can only speculate beyond that.
where I understand, and you can correct me as a biologist.
Yeah. Because, like I said, because they're using scientific methodology, and using scientific methodology, they have to use time and space in order to explain.
No way of knowing what.
They cannot know, and they will never know if they only use a limited tool like science. So you're trying to explain the metaphysics with science, which is the wrong tool.
No, we're not trying to explain it. We say that we don't know.
No, you will always say you don't know. The scientists,
That's not a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the thing is that always saying don't know doesn't mean that the answer doesn't exist
That's true.
for others. So what I'm saying is that the only three possibilities which I gave you is either the universe created by nothing, or it created itself, or someone intelligent created it.
But
now you tell me if there is another way, another alternative to these three methodologies of explaining how the universe came into being, then please let me know. But so far, I've narrowed it down to these three.
But the thing is,
But the Big Bang is included in this third definition that someone intelligent caused that.
No.
Why not? You see all these systems you see in our body and in our universe, they have some sort of an order. If you look at the second law of thermodynamics about the entropy, yes, you cannot have order from chaos. Yes, you can. Show me where.
this gentleman's skin here, apparently it's theorized that it's a mutation.
How do you know it's a
Can you
mutation?
reproduce a mutation?
It's adaptation. How do you know it's mutation?
That's what they said.
Who say?
That's what they said.
No, they say it's adaptation.
No.
So when he goes in the sun,
Well, I mean,
he gets tanned.
A lot of adaptations are caused by mutations that become favorably
No, but
selected.
mutations by definition are not always good. They're harmful.
absolutely. Most
Okay.
of the time they
So
are.
when your skin, your pigmentation turns darker,
Yeah.
it is your body trying to protect you from the harmful rays of
I
the
know
sun.
this. I'm
To me,
you're looking at me as you should look at
no,
I didn't say anything.
Absolutely.
sorry.
But
So what I'm saying is that is not something which is chaotic or random. That is something which is designed. It is designed in your system to protect you. You can call it natural selection,
the
nothing
most
wrong with that. You see, everything natural selection does, yes, one thing you'll realize is that natural selection cannot explain your consciousness. Try doing that with Darwinism. Trust me.
That's where I was trying to go. with
Okay,
the
show me how natural selection explains consciousness.
If
Why
I
do you
know,
think we verge into groups?
Second,
Why do you think why do you think we automatically verge into groups as opposed to competition?
emerge into groups. What do you mean?
Instead of a
Because we live in
tournament
groups.
society,
that?
why do we rely on each other?
we're collective.
Oh, you're talking about the social aspect of human beings? Do you think every animal is social?
Say that again?
Does every animal, in order to
that's the
live?
good thing, that's the
No,
good
but that's what I'm
thing,
telling you.
they're
When I talk about us, I talk about the living beings on this planet. I don't talk about only human beings. So for us, human beings, yes, there is consciousness. For the animals, I think they are aware of their environment as well. So there's some degree of consciousness, maybe lower to us, but there's still some sort of consciousness. Yes, if you're talking about their existence, their ability to think, their ability to survive, their ability to even mate or to eat food, all these requires certain system of their understanding of the environment. I'm not saying they have a nervous system like ours, yes, which is formed much to a degree is much higher than those animals or organisms. Yes, it is at a higher degree, but still they're able to think and evaluate based on their understanding of the environment.
But biologically, we know and we can demonstrate that a lot of these animals and a lot of these ecosystems have evolved from certain pro and con scenarios, especially human beings in particular. When we're talking about, again, why do people prefer to go in groups as opposed to have a tournament society where the strongest is on top and it's a small section?
We are social beings,
They
so we like,
understand-
we like society.
It's quite simple. They understand that they can gain more resources with teamwork than they can with a
That's why I said
hierarchy.
we are social
but
animals.
We can observe this and we can prove this. We have different societies and we have different animal systems, right? To kind of like draw an objective kind of comparison between. And that's where I'm talking about, when he's talking about having the evidence, there are certain things that we can observe, and that's consciousness on the animal side. Now, where you assert that we have no way, sorry, I think you were saying we have no way.
I'm saying Darwinism cannot prove consciousness, because if you look at Darwinism, you know what Darwinism, those people who believe in Darwinism believe?
I didn't realize Darwinism was a term.
Well, it is a
But it
term.
can.
It's become sort of, some of them defend Darwinism to the extent like a religion.
But the thing
Yes,
is,
exactly.
but the thing is,
So these people who compare themselves to basically believing in the doctrine of Darwinism, they would say that we don't believe that this that matter has a meaning or a purpose. It's just random matter coming together and having some sort of some sort of an objective, but not a meaningful one. These are just accident. That's a good term.
There's
Yeah.
a misrepresentation going on, because I mean I'm not interested in people who call themselves Darwinists.
sorry, I just wanted
to know about.
I just wanted to point out.
Okay, so I want to understand if you've read Darwin and his theories, I want to understand how does he come across the concept of, or not the concept, the reality of this consciousness that we all have.
I'm not sure that's what he was.
Because that was my question.
Because I was
That's what I'm asking you. Not everything can determine.
do human beings not live off of learning from their mistakes consciousness?
No, I'm not saying we don't. Of course we
No,
learn.
they do.
We learn from our mistakes. I'm not
But
saying
from
no.
what I understand from Darwinism, it's the idea.
Right. Right.
Yeah, when we're talking about Darwinism, when we're talking about, is it evolution in particular we're talking about? Right? Yeah. Evolution is the idea that animals take every advantageous feature and then they pass it on to their next lenient line, right?
How do you know what's advantageous?
Say that again?
How do you know what's advantageous?
It's translated in it's translated by your ability to repopulate after. If you have advantageous features, you're more likely to have sex and reproduce more than the people who don't have this advantage.
Yeah, but how would they know to pass this on without their ability to pass it on?
It's
For
not
example,
about, it's not about
listen.
knowing. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2
Okay,
seconds. Let me
sorry,
finish.
sorry, go on.
It's not about knowing whether or not. It's the system and it's the ecosystem. So in terms of, if I had horses' legs, weird analogy, but if I had horses' legs, right, and our system was ran on hard labor, right, who's more likely to survive, me or this gentleman here?
It depends on how you think, not your legs. You see, this is what I'm saying. Just because you're stronger doesn't mean you are better. You're better surviving, because the dinosaurs were much stronger than us. The T-Rex was much stronger than us.
But that doesn't take away
But that doesn't mean that they are able to survive.
I'll give you a rebuttal to that. We have a system now, right, of women who would rather choose alpha males as opposed to males who actually value their intellect. Now, if we take the society that we live in, intellect is much more of an advantageous feature, but they still go on their prehistoric drive to want the male who's got the V-shaped triangle. Yes.
I don't think that's alpha male.
So like,
You don't know the meaning of alpha male.
It's about personality. traits.
Exactly.
No,
You're talking about. If you're talking about a bodybuilder, is not necessarily an alpha male.
I agree.
Let me finish.
I know many people who are giants, but they are gentle giants.
Even if we're talking about that, in particular, right?
Has evolved.
Yeah. Even if
Look,
we're-
our consciousness has, when you say it's evolved, yes, this is our
guys,
knowledge
guys,
that is
guys,
evolved,
guys,
not the
guys.
consciousness.
Give me 2 seconds.
Our knowledge has grown, yes. But when you talk about consciousness, your consciousness was able to use that knowledge to make things better for you, perhaps, or maybe not. Because to me, when I look at